evening, ladies and gentlemen. If someone could please do a nice sound check for me, that would be fantastic. It is Good Friday, and we are here at the home of the actual British GT event this weekend, which is Oulton Park. But we're here for a far more important event, which is round 3 of the pure sim gear GT3 Friday race. Spaceman, I don't quite get that. At Oulton Park, a tight, twisty, technical track, which is always fun to watch people race at. Two absolute nightmarish of chicanes, an interesting hairpin, and well, just a flowing track. I am not Chromatics, if anyone hasn't noticed. I can start pronouncing BMW, but I'm going to go with the standard BMW, which my Welsh/English accent allows for. We have currently 23 people in the lobby, I believe, and we're expecting a few more. But hey, there we go. Let's have a quick recap on where we are in terms of the standings. I haven't done anything on standings for a while, so let's have a quick check. We've got our pros, which are in the greeny colour, and our and our silvers, which are in the blue colour. So that's how we're going to identify our drivers. So our pros, we've got Alexander Romanestev on 48 points. Bit of an echo on my voice. Right, let's see if I can sort that out. Is that better? We got Salvatore de Catania in second, just 1 point behind, and we got Maxim Huel in the Aston Martin in third place on 38 points. Terence Keenan in fourth on 36. Mr. Zakdal. Thanks, fine God, now. Good. Just had to click a setting. Alex Zakdal in 5th on 35. Then we've got Melka Garbi in 6th on 34. Oliver Ewig. Let's be nice and let's share it for everyone. Oliver Ewig in 7th. Then we got Pavlo Povlachuk, who won last time out at Zolder. Andrei Pozniakov in 9th on 22 points. Alfie Barron in 10th on 22 points. In terms of our silver guys, what do we have? We have Tom Curtin leading the way in the Porsche on 48 points. Francesco Sergetti in 2nd on 47 points. Matthias Bricht on 3rd on 33 points. Nigel Longdon in 4th on 31. Pandolf Caprino in 5th on 31. Christopher Jones in 6th on 30. Daniel Krishnaida, what a fantastic race on Tuesday night, in 7th on 29 points. Antonio Otto in 8th on 26, Raki Maj in 9th on 25, and Stotris Katragonis in 10th on 24 points. So that's our current top 10 for the silvers. And for the pro-ams as well, you've got Mr. Floppy Fox in P1 on 49 points, Alexander Malachowski in 2nd on 48, Edrix Pardani in 3rd on 44, Tudor in on 43, and Sven Corving in 5th on 37. Derek Bruh will shoot me if I don't mention him, but he's in 6th on 31 points. Our AMs, who are running in a separate server, so you've got Barry Gibbons in P1 on 44, then you've got Georgi Filipov in 2nd on 42, Fabio Carria in 3rd on 41 points, Giorgio Boggio in 4th on 40 points, and Biswas in 5th on 39 points. Tim Brown's got current 6th position, and Christopher Gedman's in 10th, one of our lovely human beings we have in the league. Our calendar, so we've completed Kyalami, Zolder, we are here now at Oulton Park. Then we go to the US of A of Kota for round 4. Then we got to come back to Snetterton for round 5, Monza for round 6, and we finish off at the Hungary ring for the final round of the championship on May the 5th. So, that's all you nice guys, all informed and ready and raring to go. As mentioned, we do have our live stewarding, courtesy of an unnamed human being. And I'm going to make sure that that's working. It looks all okay at the moment, so that's good news. But this proves to be a tight, horrible track to overtake. There's a couple of places where you can potentially go for that move. Turn 1 is not one of those places. The most likely comfortable place to make a move is probably the hairpin. So the first turn you're cutting a bit of the inside, as you can see from the tyre marks on the right hand side. Then you come down the hill to sweep in left-hander, which is trying to carry as much speed as possible before you head towards the hairpin, which is always a difficult braking point, and drivers take different lines. Here's the second of our horrible chicanes, and into another sweep-in right-hander, which is cutting in from the middle of the track across, and then the final turn to the start-finish straight. As you can tell, I've done all my research of corner names, and if Woody was here, he would be correcting me at every single one. But hopefully my lack of knowledge will... we can make some corner names up, I suppose. So drivers just completing their final laps, their final preparations before qualifying. So Terence Keenan currently leads the way with a 33.7. Melker Garby is a 36. I don't think he set a fast lap since I've joined the server, but then you've got a couple of the silver guys in the mix as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the drivers are split between the different tiers and how much of a separation there actually is between the pro drivers and the silver drivers. As you can see, Caprino is currently in P3 overall, but that, if as the qualifying develops, we'll see if that is the case. So, first 10 minutes, the silver guys will attack the track. Currently, the weather looks nice and dry, and that's an interesting place to park for car number 176. So we're having a look at David Klein at the moment. We were having a look at David Klein, but I'm sure he's going to go into the pit stops after cutting some grass at turn 2, and David indeed pops himself into the pits. So let's have a look. Oh no, there's another one experiencing the grass. So our current championship leader was parked on the right hand side of the track, is also in the pits. So I'm just trying to find someone who's actually out on track and we can have a little bit of a tour with them. So Uwe Varzi currently in car number 99 in the BMW, just going through the hairpin on his initial lap. So yes, we do have our 25 drivers in at the moment. Please let us know your thoughts on who's going to be the eventual winner, and who's going to be challenging the top of the tree to as we approach Hungaroring for the finale of the season. So driver politely moves across to the right hand side, so Varzi can continue his preparation lap. I'm trying to see if anyone has started a lap. It doesn't look as anyone has as yet, but we're going to jump on board with Varzi and see how he's tackling the track. One thing I haven't done, Sergio, is go target qualifying, send test incident. So hopefully you have a test incident which has appeared in your qualifying bit. Yes, you do. Good. That's always good news. Something's working. So Varzi now starts his lap, brings the car over to the left-hand side, try and cut as much of the right-hand corner as possible. As he breathes over to the left-hand side, gets very, very squirrely, and that's already an invalid lap. That's the dangers of Oulton Park. As soon as you touch the grass, you're not going to have much fun. So who else is on a lap at the moment? It looks as though Ryan Blanchett has restarted one. And every time I go to Ryan at the moment, he's disappearing off onto somewhere where he doesn't want to be. So that's obviously an invalid lap as well. So let's come on, Chris, please stay on track. As he's approaching the second chicane now. Get that braking zone right, cut as much of the right hand corner as you can. Some bollard still remains, a little bit of a tiny straight, a squirt of power to the next right hander. Get into the slipstream of the car in front. Next is a left hander into a sweeping right hander, which is not a heavy braking zone but can catch a lot of drivers out as Chris professionally deals with that. Breathe again over to the left hand side of the track. Keep it left this time for the final corner. Look to the brake marker on the left hand side as it still remains there. So exit, taking as much of the left hand side. Be careful of some exit oversteer. A little bit tweaking around, and Chris Jones pops his lap in, and that was a 1:33.9. Caprino popped in a 1:33.7. So the times have started, and I'm sure they will tumble. But that's a really good effort from Chris for his first lap out. Only 0.2 of a second behind Pandolf Caprino, who we saw was in the top 3 drivers when they were just at the end of practice. So he shows that he's already got the pace. So that's must be a good confidence booster to Chris there. So we've got Simone Ippolito. Not Ippolito, but although Ippolito started in the Porsche in FRL. Currently going around, we've also got David Goodway, who didn't set a valid lap last time out, but he's currently 0.4 up on his best time at the moment in the Aston Martin, as we're already seeing some debris being distributed across the track. From various different poles as he approaches the second chicane into the braking zone. Sweep again across the right hand side. He's in the livery, and the bollard has gone. That did not take long. The bollard has gone from the apex of the chicane. It usually gets planted around somewhere on the track, and I just decided to lock my PC whilst I was getting overly excited about bollards being distributed. So David Goodway currently a second up on his best time. Is this going to be an improvement? However, we will just go with Pandolf Caprino, who pops in a 33 dead. That is a fantastic lap, and I'm sure will send shivers down the rest of the grid spine as they know they have to try and catch up with that. David Goodway sets his lap and he goes into P3 as Caprino does go off the track, and he's going to go for a preparation lap before he tries to go again. Any other drivers who are up on their laps? We've got Ippolito building. The driver sensibly remains on the right hand side to allow Ippolito to go through in this Golf Porsche. Car number 140, one of the drivers from Italia who have joined us in FRL for another season. I wonder which connection that's from. Either the wonderful commentary from Chromedix or the Italian-speaking Marco Keddy, who races in quite a few Italian events as well. And it's always a pleasure to have them as well. They're generally bloody quick. So Ippolito goes into the final corner. Porsche didn't squirt at all from there. So that's good news for Ippolito. Simone Ippolito goes from P24 to P2. That is a very, very impressive lap. Who else have we got going a bit quicker? Uwe Varzi, who we tried to jump on board with at the start, but he's currently 0.2 of a second up, but that will still put him 2 seconds behind Pandolf. Chris Jones currently 0.9, just under a second behind him. Ippolito 0.8, so that just shows what pace Pandolf has got in his car at this track and this season as well. So surely a driver that's going to pop into the pros next season. So Uwe Varzi completes his lap, goes from P9 to P7. That's a nice little bit of progression for him. Anyone else which we've got? So we've got Chris Schneider, who hasn't set a lap yet in the Merc. Blanchett hasn't done one either in the Ferrari. Klein has done one lap, but he's currently popped back to the pits. We've also got Ippolito going a bit quicker, but we've also got Nigel Longdon back in the Honda again this season. Is he going to make an improvement? Current time is a 34.0, and this should be in the 33s. It's a 33.8, and he displaces his good friend Christopher Jones, who knocks him down to 4th position. Ippolito's gone a bit slower through the final sector, so no improvement from him. Let's stay with Daniel Chris Schneider in the Mercedes as he brakes for turn 2. There's a car off in the distance, just past the bollards. I think he missed turn 3, as he approaches a long straight. Carry as much speed for this right hand to see if he shifts down. No, he does not. Keep it to the left-hand side for the braking zone. Always bouncing away on these British tracks. It looks as though he's going to disappear into the wall, but he manages to carry it on. Next to the chicane, he probably missed the apex. at the first part of it, but seems to carry enough speed through as we approach now the second chicane. It's in the braking zone again. The Mercedes wants to put the grunt in. He's got still a minute and a half left before the end of his stint, so we'll have this lap and another lap at least to continue to put laps in. So Daniel Schneider currently without a time as he approaches the final sector of the track. He's not going that much quicker, I don't think. He seems to have invalidated every lap at the first corner as he approaches, or the first sector, so approaches the final corner and the Merc gets the grunt down. He jumps from P17 to P6. That's a good effort from him. We got Ippolito, Longdon, Jones and Goodway all in the pits. Pandolf is not on a hot lap at the moment. We have Stotiris in his favoured Ferrari approaching the final sector, currently in P11. There was a little bit of a glitchy moment there, but with a 35.3, this should be an improvement from Stotiris, and he jumps up to P7, so that's not a bad lap at all. Stalinkov in the BMW, currently in P8. His best lap is a 34.6, which was his last lap. Nobody else is on a lap at the moment apart from Romani. He might have an improved time, so Stalinkov jumps up to P7. Next driver to cross the line will be Ligard Roman from Halle Bleu. So he approaches the final corner in the Aston Martin now, powering down the start-finish straight. Roman goes P10 to P8, so that's a nice improvement from him. We've got David Klein, who's on a potential improvement, going through the final corner now. These will be the last laps of the drivers. So David Klein crosses the line and stays P11. Ryan Blanchett, disappointed with his qualifying so far, currently in P12 with a 36.4. So we'll be hoping for a big improvement this time around as he approaches the final sector of the track. 0.6 up on his best lap at the moment. Will need at least 1.4 seconds to make any position gains, and that would only be one position to David Klein, who's currently in P11. So Ryan Blanchett approaching the final sector, final corner now, gets onto the power. We've got a car on the right hand side who's going into the pits. Ryan Blanchett is going to set a lap here. This is P12 and stays P12, but is within 0.8 now of the driver in front. So the silver drivers will now go into the pits, and it is now going to be the turn of the pro drivers. So our starting grid for the silver drivers is Ryan Blanchett, as we just seen, in 12th, David Klein in 11th, Varzi in 10th, Stotiris in 9th, Legard Roman in 8th, Stalinkov in 7th, Schneider in 6th, well, Varzi has just popped himself into P9, Schneider in 6th, Dave Goodway 5th, Chris Jones 4th, Nigel Longdon in 3rd, Ippolito in 2nd, and Pandolf Caprino in P1, our current championship leader. We're looking at Terence Keenan, who's been performing very, very well this season. Was in P1 in the practice, and he has just started his lap. So the Porsche seems to be relatively strong here. The silver split has shown that with a Porsche on P1, so Terence Keenan will be hoping his luck at Oulton Park changes significantly. Last season, I think he got punted by a teammate. So we'll certainly be hoping that that doesn't happen this time around. So Terence Keenan just coming through the second chicane now. Gone through the first chicane, down to the second chicane, into the braking zone. Takes the right hander, tries to cut as much of the curb as he can on the left hand side, bring it back across the left hand side of the track to power out for a bit more of a sweeping straight. So Terence Keenan, the Irish potato, his internet seems to have improved, which has probably added to his consistency in the championship. So how will Terence get on at Oulton Park? Currently staying within the track limits. Another ERS car behind of the Aston Martin. Down the start-finish straight, Terence Keenan sets his first lap, his first marker, and that puts him P2, just behind Pandolf by 0.2 of a second. Alex Zakdal was the driver behind in the Aston. It's in the Bentley, not the Aston Martin. Silly fool. And that pops in with a 33.7. It's nice to see the Boatley on PC. It was the king of cars on PlayStation 4, but we haven't seen it that much in on PC. So let's have a look and see how Amir's doing in the Ferrari. Another one of these Ferrari drivers that absolutely adores the car. The only place I can drive it is Brands Hatch. Otherwise, I want to cry as I drive it. So Amir sometimes, and rightly so, feels quite unlucky. Seems to be involved in instances where he ideally wouldn't be. But his pace on qualifying laps is absolutely blistering. I think sometimes the connection issues, being so far away, hinders him on at race starts, and that's where then he can fall into traffic, which he really doesn't want to be in, and then can cause premature endings to his race. But I mean, a lovely guy, helps out a lot in the steward channels as well within Formula Racing League. So it's nice to see him on track, and it's always nice to see him finish a race as well. So as Amir starts to go through the final sector, start to catch up with some of the drivers who are putting hot laps, who are improving greatly. Speaking of improving greatly, there is Andrea Pozniakov, pops it into P1 with a 32.8. That is a fantastic start for him. Wow. Romain Estev, our current championship leader, P4, is just experiencing some great British sand. Careful on your re-entry. Yeah. Well done, drivers, for avoiding that. So, Pozniakov's co-pilot, I think, is Pavlychuk, who's been for 401 last time out as Zolder. His lap time only pops in P13. Amir's time popped in P20th with a 34.6, and he's jumped into the pits. Maybe a little bit of a setup tweak to help him with what he's doing. In terms of drivers improving, the main driver coming up is De Catinia in P7. He's currently 3/10 up on his lap. Previous fastest lap so far was a 33.6. His last lap was a 33.2, but unfortunately it was invalid. And that would pop him, well, around 3rd and 4th on the grid. So hopefully Salvatore can get a clean lap in the Honda. Just remember, we've got one pit stop within the 20-minute pit window for tyres, so it'll be at least a 30-second stop within that 20-minute pit window. So it's worth keeping an eye on how the drivers which drivers have yet to complete a stop, and how that can alter some of the strategy. Obviously, all the drivers will start the race with pretty much a full tank. Some might have to fuel save, which will be interesting. So Salvatore crosses the line, P7, and he goes into P4 with a 33.0. So that was 2/10 quicker than his previous fastest invalid lap. Any other drivers up at the moment? We've got Maxim, who from the Ukraine, in the Aston Martin, has a Ferrari, I think, of Amir in front of him. So Maxim will be hoping to set a valid lap this time around. So Amir sensibly lets him through, as Amir's on an out lap at the moment. So Maxim Kuel going into the sweeping right-hander. So that's the second to last corner before hitting the final corner. Is this going to be a competitive lap time for Maxim? Over to the left-hand side of this track, remains within the track limits, most importantly, and that pops him into P16. That's a very good lap. We've got Salvatore, who's pushing the limits on, can he get to pole position? Currently just under 2/10 behind. We'll be starting on the second row of the grid at the moment. So Salvatore would very much like to start on the front row, if not in pole position. So Salvatore De Catinia had an excellent battle with Pozniakov, who's nowhere to be seen at the moment. Pavlychuk, sorry, last time out. So Salvatore De Catinia crosses the line. P4, is this going to be an improvement from him? It is indeed, but it's up to P3. Our current driver setting the fastest lap is Pozniakov, which we'll catch up with in a moment as we're on board with Melka Garbi crossing the start-finish line. This should be an improvement from him. P7 goes to P2. So straight away, pops De Cantigny back into the second row of the grid. Pozniakov has lost time in the second sector, so currently not on for a fastest lap. We've got Maxim again, who's on for an improvement, currently 3/10 up on his time, currently a best of a 34.3. A 34.0 we're popping in with David Goodway and Chris Jones. So we'll be hoping for an improvement this time around from Maxim Quill. Any other driver looking? Garbi again is going quicker, so we'll try and flick back to Melka momentarily, but we've got just under a minute left of qualifying for this drivers to set the last laps. So Maxim goes from P16 to P14. Now let's go on board with Melka Garbi. As we're approaching the chicane, currently a 10th up on his best time. This will pop him into provisional pole position. This will maybe his final lap, I'm not 100% sure, but 2/10 up on his best time. Melka Garbi going through the final difficult chicane. Pozniakov has said, no, I'm done, I'm diving into the pits. You've still got challenges of Garbi, Kina, Decania, Zakdel and Cottrell all on track, setting laps, but this is going to be the main challenger for pole position as we speak. Melka Garbi, Mr. Unlucky sometimes around. Here in FRL, goes through the final corner, down the start-finish straight. Melka Garbi, 32.685. Anyone else up on their laps? And Melka indeed says, no, I'm done. I'm happy with that. Alex Zakdel's up on his lap at the moment, but we've got Cutrale, who's even pace with his best time at the moment. So a Italian in a Ferrari. Wonder why. Through the final corner, don't see any Lamborghinis here. Through the final corner, P8 stays P8. That'll be it for qualifying for him. Next driver to cross the line will be Alex Zakdel in the BMW. No, in the Bentley, not BMW. Come on, get with your cars. Car number 331, the experienced 15-year-old. Must be close to his 100th race here by now. Alex Zakdel going through the final sector, currently 3/10 up on his lap. This will bring potentially him into the top 3 positions. So through the final corner, little bit of drifting, gets on the power, lost a 10th of a second through there. P7 to P4, so on the same row as his teammate Terence Keenan. Meanwhile, Salvatore De Cantigny going through the final corner now, currently in P5. Will be looking to drop into the 32s as well, and he does indeed, and pops himself into P3. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of qualifying. So Salvatore left it to the last minute to pop himself in. I was going to do silent comms, Sergio. I was just saying we've had a little bit of a change in format. We held a driver briefing 15 minutes before the event, and hopefully that's going to calm the drivers down. Failing that, I'll be turning up at every single driver's house with some sedatives to chill them out for next time round. But it's an hour-long race, and there's nothing that's going to stop anyone. Nobody should be diving into turn 1, as we just saw Alex Zachtel exploring the tracks in his boatly, looking for any water, any ponds. So, anyone who's interested in the British GT races in real life, the actual series is at Oulton Park this weekend. I think the race is on Bank Holiday Monday. And here in the UK, we have been on Bank Holiday. We've had a Bank Holiday today, and got another one on Monday, and I'm on holiday on Monday. So I'm actually in a good mood. I get to go on a boat. Oh, fancy. So, drivers have lined up in double file now, ready to go around the final corner. So we've got Salvatore and Garbi on row 1, Keenan and Zachtel on row 2, Caprino, Alexander on row 3, with Pozniakov and Kutrale on row 4. So, Melker Garbi will have the opportunity to go. He has the inside line down into turn 1. He goes alongside with Salvatore, or Pozniakov actually was there, and they seem to have got through turn 1 relatively successfully right at the front of the grid. Melker Garbi has had a nice clean getaway from Pozniakov. We have an instant at the back, and that did not look like a good moment in time for Alex Zachtel, who I think got collected by Pandolf de Caprino, who was right at the back of the grid. It looked like he braked extremely late, and then just caught, the side of Alex Zachtel. So that'll be interesting to see if that came through as an instant. But on board currently with Stotteris. Our race leader has got a comfortable lead of 1.2 seconds away from the rest of it, from the chasing pack. Pozniakov is under pressure from Salvatore in P3, with Terence Keenan in P4, less than 4 tenths behind. Alexander, our current championship leader, in P5, being closely followed by Baggio Cotrale in P6. Then with Ippolito, P2 in the P1 in the silvers, is at the front of a mini train with Longdon, Goodway and Povlachuk in there as well. Chris Jones is flagging as a yellow flag, but he looks comfortably on track at the moment as he goes through the final corner. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is lap 1. What a great start by Melker Garbi, who's currently 1.5 seconds in front of Pozniakov behind. And as we look out the rear view mirror, out of the rear wing, it's a comfortable gap behind him. Less comfortable is Pozniakov, who has Salvatore and Keenan fighting for positions behind. So I'm sure Sergio has gone away, and it looks as though instants are working and they're coming through on the spreadsheet. So we have a go for live stewarding, which is great news. But go Ukraine, hello chat, Beat Club 35, absolutely. We've got 2 quite high performing Ukrainian drivers at the moment. Pozniakov is under quite a bit of pressure from Salvatore, who goes to the inside line, bounces across the curb. That was a desperate move when it probably didn't need to be. That's not really a clean overtaking point, and I think therefore he's taken the penalty. He's had to take his medicine for that move. He's now a bit of a blocker on track, with P8 behind him, Nigel Longdon, looking left and right in order to try and make a move as they head towards the sweeping right-hander. Little bit of contact with the back of Salvatore, and Longdon there has shunted Salvatore off the track. Salvatore's rejoined. Longdon's rejoined as well, so no great damage, but another bunch of positions lost from Salvatore. Garby sets the fastest lap. Chris Schneider goes for the inside line, successfully made through the final corner, and we've also got, by the looks of things, Pozniakov is off the track as well. It is Pozniakov. So down from P2 all the way down to P14. Not quite sure what happened there. Was that a mistake? Did he get a bit of exit oversteer and fly across the track? But he's now all the way down in P14 and in amongst the pack. We've got a BMW behind him, Mastalyakov. Longdon's lost a lot of positions. He's in P13, but nicely, safely tucked away at the moment is Melker Garby, 5.3 seconds with all that fun of the fair behind him. Alexander under pressure from Baggio behind. Ippolito in the silver split is behind these drivers as they approach the braking zone for the chicane. Now Aston Martin seems to have curbs for breakfast. Don't forget to give us a follow on our Instagram account, which is FRL Race Club, and if you're watching this, please give us a follow. It's always nice. That's Alexander currently leading the way. Baggio under pressure from Ippolito. Ippolito doesn't really need to fight too much for this position, but he would like to put a little bit of a buffer in between himself and David Goodway. Povlachuk, meanwhile, in P7 is 1.2 seconds behind. Anyone else have we got having some fun at the fair? Carl Van Hoon and Daniel Krischneider are fighting away as they go through the twisty Oulton Park circuit. Alex Zachtel and Carl Van Hoon are fighting it out as well. Meanwhile, Garby pops in a 33.5 for his troubles, and that's continuously building on his lead, which is currently 5.3 seconds. Alex Zachtel into the braking zone for the final corner. Not sure if this is where Pozniakov had his troubles and then squirted across the track, but Alex Zachtel is going to try and look to make a move to try and gain positions back on the track. Decides against it, loses a bit of time to P17. So Cal Van Horn continue to retain that position. Anything else going at the front of the grid? We've got Chris Jones and Amir, both in different splits, remember. So the blues are our silvers, the greens are our pros. Keddy, I didn't upload the file. That's why they're not in the correct colours. So we've got Paolo Ongari, one of our rookie drivers. Viva Baggio! Whenever I see Baggio, I just think Roberto. What? Oh, and Dino Baggio was great in the 90s as well, but hey, maybe it's just showing my age. We've got Dicania, who's trying to gain some positions up, but Chris Jones continues to manage to defend. So Dicania in P10, which is right behind this Baggio Culturale Forza. Again, my shocking English and Welsh accent isn't really built for Italian names, but I try. So Salvatore all over the back of Amir. This is a fight for position. We also have Creel, Maxim Creel trying to go for that move down the inside of Salvatore. Good Italian. Nah. You lie, but I like it. Salvatore under a lot of pressure as he goes into turn 1. Is the move going to be sent on the inside? It'll be a very risky move if he does. Unfortunately enough, decides against it. 5.8 seconds is now the gap between first and second. Salvatore going into the braking zone under a lot of pressure from Maxim, but he wants to be challenging Amir in front of him. And Amir doesn't want to be fighting with Salvatore, he wants to be passing Chris Jones. So Salvatore go into the braking zone for the hairpin. Probably the only realistic opportunity to make a pass down the inside safely. We saw Salvatore make that risky move into the second chicane, which ultimately has not paid off for either driver. Just saw a driver who started right at the back of the grid, which was Francesco Saggietti, in the Porsche, currently in P16. He's gained 10 places since the start, and I wouldn't necessarily say there's been ultimate chaos. It's been a relatively clean start. Oliver Ewig from Germany in P14 has gained 7 positions since the start. Salvatore has lost 7 since the start, so it's a little bit of swings and roundabouts. Pandav Coprino, who we saw have that incident right at the beginning of the race, is all the way down in P22. Just saw Daniel Krischneider has unfortunately visited the pits, so I'm not sure what's quite happened to him. Looks like he's had some potential contact with Sotiris in P21, but Sotiris is still running 7 tenths behind David Klein. So Pandolf trying to build his way back up through the grid. Che frega de Leclerc no Chiambino Saggetti. No idea if you're swearing or you're not. But Salvatore still trying to get past. It's now under pressure and has actually been overtaken by Maxim. So Salvatore is not finding it too easy in the middle of the pack to just cut through the field. This track again, very, very hard to overtake. So we've got just over 10 minutes until the pit window. Saggetti. Okay. He's sensible. Sensitive about his name. Okay. Saggetti. How's that? You don't pronounce mine James either. You pronounce it Pink Pig. Salvatore in P11. Again, not finding it very easy to get through the field, but the closest fight on the track at the moment seems to have dropped Alex Zakdal behind. But Saggetti, I have to use the hand motion as I say it as well, is Stelnikov behind, in front, is under pressure in the BMW, trying to go, thinking about that inside move, probably decides against it wisely. Pozniakov is fighting for P12 in front as well. So this, as Saggetti, it looked like he was going into the pits, but obviously not. But all the time that... Oh, who's that? That's Pozniakov, who's just met wall. Met wall on exit, got a massive bout of oversteer, and therefore has gone into the pit. Saggetti has gone for the move. I'm not sure if this is glitching or this is actual contact between the drivers, but Alex Zakdal's got through, and he's now moved up to P15. Tacania has dropped another couple of positions, but he is still on track. Well, he's not on track actually. He's currently experiencing how to actually enter the track, so he's dropped down to P16, and I imagine there's some incoming race penalties at some point, so let's have a quick check. Okay, Salvatore has probably got more damage than he actually wants to have, so there's been a couple of incidents that have been investigated which are waiting for, I'm not sure if penalties have been applied, and indeed the first incident there's an incident between 3331 and 27 which is under investigation, an incident between 974 and 92 which is under investigation as well by the stewards, and we'll potentially be seeing a penalty being applied to one of the drivers at some point. I've now have to stop trying to be cocky and trying to do more things than I should be doing. But Stanikov now is being passed by Alex Zakdal. So Alex Zakdal is proving that the patient approach of moving back through the field has probably been the more sensible approach, and he is now up into P14. Next on his list will be Oliver Ewig in P12. So it's Stanikov had put up an admirable fight, and that move has ultimately been made. So, top of our tree, what do we have so far? So we've got Melker Garby, and as you can see in the background, you can't throw a sausage at Terence Keenan in P2. He's quite far away, so Terence Keenan is 6 seconds behind, so that gap has remained pretty constant. Alexander in P3, under pressure from Baggio behind in P4. In the Ferrari. Then we got our leader of the silver class, which is Ippolito in P5 in the Porsche. Second place in the silver class, David Goodway is in P6. Then we got Pavlychuk in the pro class as well in P7. And currently on for a nice little podium is Chris Jones in P8. He's dropped Amir a little bit, so Amir is now 1.2 seconds behind. Towards the back of the grid, we've got two drivers currently in the pits, which is Pozniakov and Chris Schneider. Ryan Blanchett is currently right at the back of the grid in P24. Alan Brizzle Brown in 23rd. Pandolf Coprino trying to build his way back through the grid after a great qualifying, right in amongst it with the pro drivers. Unfortunately had an incident right at the start which has put him into P22. So this is a point now of just being conscious of the championship and trying to take away as many points as possible from this race, knowing that it hasn't been... It's not in the highlight reel, put it that way. So Salvatore trying to go through Carl Van Horn this time, is now on the inside for the sweeping left-hander. He has the inside line, that means Carl will have the outside line for the next corner, but the move was done beforehand, and again the lack of patience from Salvatore, and that's put him into the wall, and that's made contact with a Ferrari as well. Not sure how much he could have done about that, but he's managed to collect Stotteris as well. So Stotteris now in P22. So took too much speed for the left-hander, caught the grass, hit the barrier, bounced off the barrier, and then unfortunately hit De Catinia. We still have just under 6 minutes into the pit window as Stotteris goes straight through the chicane. So Dave Goodway right on the back now. So this is a fight for silver. So interesting about these races, you don't just have one fight for a win, you have two fights for a win. So as you can see, the top four drivers are in the pro split. Then we got Ippolito and Goodway fighting it out for the silver split win, and also the silver split championship as well. It's nice to see David Goodway right at the front of the grid, a 7 times FRL champion on PlayStation days, but now obviously on the PC he's going to need to try and be patient, build the laps up, wait for a mistake from Ippolito. Lap times last time out, Ippolito 34.5, Goodway at 34.4. And also Goodway's got to be mindful of, you got Pavlychuk behind in the pro split, and Pavlychuk was lapped last time 2/10 of a lap faster than David Goodway. So that's going to be another element to the equation as this starts to build. Gap in front between Garby and Keenan is currently 5.7 seconds. 6.2 seconds then a gap to Alexander. 2 seconds behind him you got Biagio. And then we got Ippolito, Goodway and Pavlychuk going from 4th, 5th and 6th. And 5th, 6th and 7th, my apologies. So on board now with David Goodway as he's trying to crawl all over the back of Ippolito. I have a feeling if he manages to get past and gets past successfully, he might pull away from Ippolito. I think he does have a bit more pace than Simone at the moment. The Porsche and the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin can take a bit more curves. Is he going to make the move now? Trying to make the move down the inside of turn 1. He doesn't, and probably sensibly so. So Maxim has got past Chris Jones by the looks of things, and Zakdal and Ewig are exchanging positions. Currently Zakdal has now just fallen back in behind. I'm not sure if there was contact between the two cars, but Oliver Ewig in his favoured McLaren being chased by the boat. So we've got 3 minutes till this pit window opens. That's going to be an opportunity for where strategy gets to be played. Are you going to come in early? Are you going to come in halfway through? Are you going to come at the end? Undercut from experience, or listening to the guys talk last night, didn't seem to be that powerful here at Oulton Park. So Coprino and Roman have had some contact in P19 and 20, so Pandolf Coprino has managed to move back through the field. Decania, after his great qualifying, has dropped right the way back to P22, and I'm pretty sure that Honda has some damage, and so he will be, I'm pretty positive, will be one of the first drivers to jump into the pit. But the fight still goes on for the leader of the silver class. So this time round, Ippolito 35.2, 35.4 from Goodway, Pavlychuk 36.1. Goodway drives a bit too much off the track. Track warnings track limits and drive-throughs can also be quite painful here at Oulton Park. Meanwhile, missed the move, but Alex Zachtel has managed to get past Oliver Ewing. Now 2.7 seconds to Nigel Longden in P10. Chris Jones remaining quite firm in P9. Although Amir wants to catch him as much as possible in the Ferrari against the Honda. And now is all over the back of him. He's going to try and sweep to the inside possibly to make the move into the chicane. I think he'll be a bit too far off. We've got Pandolf Caprino now. Is going sideways. Careful on your entry, mate. Yeah, that's not the best, mate. Pandolf Caprino, I think, frustrated. And is trying to make moves when they potentially don't exist, but that'll be down for the stewards to review. So Cal Van Horn has moved up to P15. Uwe Vase is now in P16, with Oliver Ewing dropping down to P17. David Goodway's dropped back by a couple of tenths. Amir is now being put under pressure from Nigel Longden, who's therefore has dropped back a bit from Christopher Jones in P9, P3 for the silver positions. So let's have a quick check on. So there has been a penalty being applied to car number 27, 15 seconds. Not sure what's happened to 974, if there's been a penalty or not. And instant under review for 92 and 24 at the moment. So that's where we're currently at. So there's only been one major penalty being issued so far that I can see. David Goodway misses his braking point and goes straight on the chicane. That's going to put him in a little bit of danger to the drivers behind. Alex Zachtel's moving his way through the field. Pit window is now open, so this will be the point where drivers are going to start to make their stops straight away. Stotteris drives into the pits to have his pit stop. I'm also trying to think, what will Alex do? Is he going to dive into the pits to potentially get some free air and some free traffic, knowing that he has the pace? His fastest lap is at 34 dead. The drivers around him are mid to late 34s. So as Pavlychuk dives into the pits from P7 to serve his pit stop, we've got Stotteris in the pits as well. Remember, all the stops should be at least 30 seconds. So we'll try and keep an eye on what the times are for the stops. But there's a battle brewing. Amir, Nigel, and Alex Zachtel as the laps go on. Not yet any of these drivers have decided to pit. 38 minutes left of the race. A lot of drivers diving into the pits. Roman, Pavlychuk, Maxim, Alan Brown, Salvatore's dived into the pits. He's going to be praying for some space. Alex Zachtel almost went straight through the back of Nigel Longden as the train of cars continues to go through the hairpin. These three drivers, four drivers of Chris's. Chris will be hoping that this battle goes on for as long as possible, because the longer this fight goes on, the more likely he's going to be able to stretch a little bit of a gap. However, Amir's now pulled away from Nigel as he's focusing on the Bentley behind. The Bentley thinks about the inside move, probably decides rightly against it. Nigel does well to avoid it as they continue to go for another lap, another round of corners. David Goodway is now 0.7 of a second behind Simeone. Nigel Longden remaining strong. There's a 4.7 gap at the top of the lead, so that's reduced by a second now. Alexander's dropped. Ippolito's dived into the pit, so he's going to try and go in early and potentially. Yeah, I was thinking Zachtel might dive into the pits. Be careful of your pit entry, my friend. But Alex Zachtel has indeed gone into the pits to serve his stop, and it's probably a wise move at this stage. Fastest stop so far has been Pavlychuk in P17, who was in P7 with a 0.3 seconds. So that was a very quick stop indeed. Chris Jones is having a go-slow moment now. He's under pressure from Amir. Amir's looking left, looking right, trying to avoid the back of the Honda. This could potentially bring Nigel Longden back into the play, but it's all working out for Alex Zagdal, who's having his pit stop at the moment, providing it's a successful pit stop. Pavlychuk 50.3, Ippolito 54.8 has come out in line with Pavlychuk by the looks of things as they exchange in positions. Looks as though Pavlychuk has managed to get in front of Ippolito, which would be good news for, well, bad news for Ippolito, because Ippolito was actually in front of Pavlychuk at one stage, but different splits and not fighting for position. It was the fact that Ippolito had a 4-second slower stop that cost him mostly in that fight. So Amir has got past Chris Jones. So we've missed that battle that was brewing. I'm assuming Amir is not going to dive into the pits this lap after having made that move. Chris Jones stays out, Longden stays out, Staliakov goes into the pits. Tries to get his box. We've got Pavlychuk as well in the pits by the looks of things. Alex Zagdal now has that open space that he desired, just to start pumping in some laps. So currently in P15, he's 14 seconds behind Ippolito. As we know, Ippolito was in 5th position when he was on track. So if he can get as close to Ippolito as possible, that could mean that he's gaining positions in the pro standings as well. Oliver Ewig and Varzi, BMW versus McLaren. So we had a driver off the track then. I'm not sure. Was that Alan Brown? I don't think so. But there's a blue flag being waved. Into the braking zone they go. Alan Brown currently in P20. Longden and Jones, friends obviously in outside, off the track, but on the track. Let's hope they can have a nice clean battle so they'll remain talking to each other. Or will one of them dive into the pits, given what's happened around them? Or will they... Chris Jones has the open track at the moment. He can follow Amir for as long as he needs to. Where did Longden go? Oh, where did Jones go, sorry? There's Jones. What happened to Longden? Oh, Longden went in the pits. Oops. So fastest stop, Stoliakov popped in a 49-second stop, so he was uber accurate with his pit box. Sieti in P8 now, so he's building up the grid right from the back of the track all the way up to P8. Has yet to complete his pit stop. None of the top 10 have yet completed their stops, so that's going to affect where they are. So Pavlychuk is currently the highest placed driver who has completed his stop. I imagine he's going to go past Nigel Longden quite easily. Yes, he does. So Pavlychuk is now up to P11. Ippolito goes up to P12. Where's Longden going to come out to? Where is Staliakov? Going through the final corner now. No, he's gone through turn 1. That was very wide. So Longden's lost a position as well to Alex Zagdal. Alex Zagdal's running side by side with Staliakov, has managed to make the move done. Rafa Campos, Zagdal the undisputed GOAT. Won a few races, he needs to get a trophy next to his name, I think. Alexander's one of our first front runners to dive into the pits within the pro split, from P3, and now is out on track. David Goodway has that space. Terence Keenan from P2 has gone into the pits as well. So David Goodway is now up into P3. Baggio is the car in front of him in P2. Nobody could find Melker Garby on the track because he's just gone. 19 seconds in front, but he'll be thinking, right, okay, what can I do to minimise risk? Do I go in this lap or do I carry on for another 10 minutes and just go for the last 10 minutes on track? So Terence Keenan is now out of the pits and is back on track. So he retains 9th positions. P10 is Alexander. He's coming out of the pit. So has the undercut worked for Polachuk? Pavlo? Don't think it has. And there is Alexander on track at the moment. So that's nice for him. Simone has managed to retain position, so the driver which he's focusing, so fastest lap of the race. So Rafa, I don't think you're too far wrong actually. He's popped in the fastest lap now. He's got some free air, 33 free, fresh set of boots on, half a tank worth of fuel. Yes, you did call it. Half a tank of fuel now in the Boatley, and now P13, and is gaining, well, gained 1 second, 1.1 second on Simone last lap. So that's a considerable one. Biagio has dived into the pits from P2. And also Melker Garby's in the pits. So let's see what the gap is between himself and Terence Keenan when they come out. I don't know what that means. Hope you're okay. So Sayati is now in P7 and has gone into the pits as well. Ami is into the pits, so there's a lot of changes in terms of our leaderboard. So Gardby is back out on track. He's in front of Uwe Varzi by the looks of things. Uwe Varzi has yet to pit, I think, or has he, or is it a lap car? Sorry, just trying to find. Oh, Oliver Ewig, sorry, was the car behind. So now Melker Garby has a little bit more of a buffer. So that gap's now 6.2 seconds between the two drivers. I'm not sure if David and Chris are speaking to each other at all. But they're going definitely for the long run. The gap between the two cars is 21 seconds. Fastest pit stop I can see so far looks to have been Alexander's of 49.3, but the difference between Garby and Keenan is just 0.2 of a second between their stops. So, but now Garby being in front, having Ewig in between them, Ewig yet to pit. So 3 drivers yet to pit: a Goodway, Jones, and Oliver Ewig. And will Terence Keenan have to get past Oliver Ewig by remove, or will Ewig dive into the pits? So Alex Zakdal now on the back of his teammate in the Ferrari, heading towards the chicane. Will there be team orders being made, or will he have to make the move? Salvatore, he's back. He's got a fixed car, pops in the fastest lap of the race in P20, but has to make the move now on. Alan Brown's gone off the track. And that's Melker behind. Please don't kill Melker. There we go. Thank you very much, Brizzle. So Tacania is making the move. Is this time he's going to be successful and avoid the grass on the right-hand side? It does appear so, yes. But he still has a lot of work to do to get back up through the field as he's unlapping himself. Alex Zakdal's now moved up to P10. He has 9.4 seconds, 9.2 seconds to catch up to Biagio. Simone Ippolito, Maxim and Uwe Varzi seem to have made contact. I'm not sure why or what. Don't make the move behind. That's Uwe Varzi in the BMW and Maxim Kiel. So Terence Keenan's now 1.7 seconds behind. So let's have a look at lap time. So David Goodway's doing a 34.4. Ippolito's doing exactly the same time. So they'll be hoping that these lap times are fast enough. Zach, the pride of Sweden. I'm sure Melker might have something to say about that. Currently leading the way. I think Ben Eck is the pride of Sweden anyway. The original drivers in the limpets. So Cal Van Horn in P16 on the back of Uwe Varzi as well. Isn't Greta Thunberg Danish. There we go. Anyway, Terence Keener flashing Oliver Ewing, but it's fight for position. I understand why Terence wants the position, but he has to earn it. Yeah, there's no need to flash. Oliver's fighting for position himself. So calm down. Greta Thunberg 2023 World Drivers Champion. I guess you'd only be able to race in Formula E. Be quite ironic if they brought back the V12s and chucks her in there, wouldn't it? Sayeti on the back of Stolyakov. Although I want to stay with the frustrated Terence Keenan and Oliver Ewing, and I think Ewing's just gone, nah, just going to annoy him even more. No, he hasn't. He's gone into the pits. Probably thinking of his own race and going, if I have contact or I have to fight with Terence, then it's just going to hurt me overall. Biagio in P9 moving up through the field. Salvatore with the fastest lap of the race in P22. Oliver Ewing now has dropped down to P11, not yet moving P13, so that's a promoted Sayeti. Sayeti has indeed done his pit. So now these are, it's such an impressive drive actually from Francesco. He's moved right from the back of the grid. I'm not sure why he was unable to qualify, but he's now progressing through the field, and I'm not sure what's happening with his connection. But I would be scared if I was a driver and that was happening to me. And that's Stelyakov has had to move very wide through the corner, and Sayeti has now moved up to P11. So next is the fight of the internet connections. Amir versus Sayeti. I think Sayeti has some problems. Right. Now, David Goodway is in the pits. Simone Ippolito is 2.7 seconds. I think he's lapping Stotteris, which might have held him up a little bit. Activate Thunderstorm. It's been dry in the UK the last 2 days. So, David Goodway is out of the pits. There's Ippolito behind, so that long run has definitely done David Goodway an absolute world of good. Being out in that open space, leading the race for a good period of time, has put a comfortable gap of 2.8 seconds between himself and Ippolito. However, he has Pavlychuk behind. Do you just go, mate? Just go. Yep, probably the best idea from David Goodway has allowed Pavlychuk to go past him. And now Pavlychuk can go on his merry way trying to chase down Alexander. And David Goodway can think about Ippolito behind, leading the way. Well, he's not leading the way at the moment because this gentleman's still on track. Hopefully the little one is doing well and on a speedy recovery. But going through the final corner, the only driver yet to complete a pit stop is Chris Jones, and he's still not going to complete a pit stop. He has Melker Garvey now 1.5 seconds behind. So we've seen the overcut has been stronger than probably anyone could have predicted. And that pit stop from David Goodway as well was a 52.7. Which was 2.1 seconds faster than Ippolito. So all bar one driver so far has completed their pit stop. Alexander pops in the fastest lap with a 33.205. He's trying to chase down Terence Keenan. Still 10 seconds difference between them, and 5 seconds quicker that lap. Melker Garvey's got a go slow moment, hopefully. Where are you? Oh no! What did you do, Melker? He comes back out in second place, but that gap between he and Alexander is now 4 seconds. Terence Keenan must be thinking, I'm happy with this. He's got a 7. He's approaching lap cars, but he has a 7-second gap to Chris Jones, who's yet to complete his pit stop, but now has a 7-second gap to Mel Kagabi behind, who I'm pretty confident will have some form of damage to his car. As we've got a drive-through cleared for car number 70. So that's Oliver Ewig's had a drive-through, and he's just gone through and cleared it. In terms of incidents under review, so we've got a 92 and 24. So car number 24 had a 15-second penalty. 84 and 328. 328 has a 10-second penalty. 92 and 14. 92 gets a 10-second penalty. 84 and 92. 84 has a 15-second penalty. And then 24 and 27. 27 is going to get a 5-second penalty. And 974 and 27. 27 has a drive-through penalty being given, and that was dealt with above. And we've got a couple more incidents as well under investigation of 92, 84, 16 and 25, 19 and 25, and 51 and 245. So we do have those incidents under investigation at the moment, and a couple of penalties which are being applied also. Let's get my screens back up. There we go. So back on board with as we can see, Mel Kagabi doesn't look as though he has any flappy bonnet syndrome, which will probably be key, but that gap behind him has gone to 3.5 seconds. Last time around it was a 47.5, so about 12-13 seconds lost from Mel there. David Goodway's Nigel Longden's got a white flag for going slow.
Pit window is now closed.
And the pit window is now closed. So where did Chris Jones come out? Where did Chris Jones come out? Can't find you. He came out behind Nigel Longden in P16. So it didn't necessarily work out for him in terms of the long one on that. That was a 59.9 seconds, that stop. David Goodway probably might be regretting allowing Pavlychuk to pass him, but now he's up to P5 and 3/4 tenths behind him, but that's allowing Ippolito to catch back up to 1.7 seconds behind. So we've now done all the stops, so we can go back into positions gained and our winners and losers. As you can see, Pavlychuk's had a very good race, gaining 9 positions. Goodway's gained 7. Terence Keenan leading the way from P3. Mel Kagabi has dropped a position from that mistake at the hairpin, potentially doing Honda things. How is Tikanya getting on? And his fight from the first challenge? He's currently in P20, so he has a long way to go in the next 18 minutes. He's lapping about a second quicker at least than all the drivers around him. Alan Brown will be his next target, which is 4.5 seconds up the road. And knowing Alan, he won't make it easy. So David Goodway and Pavlo Pavlychuk, Ippolito, Biagio doing things in the middle of the track. David Goodway, I probably think he probably is regretting allowing Pavlychuk to go through, but Pavlychuk won't let him past. So he has to be mindful of Biagio in P7, who is currently in P5 for the pros. So David Goodway has to plan this move, make sure it's sensible, because it'll be a shame to lose this position, this win at the moment, off the back of a mistake whilst trying to race one of the pros. But Ippolito is under pressure as well from Biagio behind in the Ferrari, so Porsche versus Ferrari. And that comfort blanket has yet to be deployed for David Goodway in P2. 7.5 seconds the gap between has remained between Keenan and Garby. Garby was only 3/10 slower that lap than Terence Keenan, but lost 4/10 to Alexander behind. Alexander's kind of turned the screw a little bit in terms of his pace and is definitely building up, but we've had all our pit stops now, so this will be a straight fight to the finish. Seems a lot quicker in the final sector as Ippolito goes to defend for the braking zone into turn 1. Oh, a little bit squirrely from the Ferrari on the exit. The gap is now 0.5 of a second. 16 minutes left of the race. Hopefully you have had a good Friday. It is Good Friday. And have some nice weekend plans. Hopefully the weather is nice and dry where you are. Unless you need rain, then hopefully it's pissing down. Wonder how the Pro-Ams and Ams are getting on. David Goodway is now a couple of tenths behind the Honda in front, as we got a lap car allowing the traffic to come past very, very nicely. What we like to see. Don't forget, next week we have again a full calendar of racing. We've got round 2 of the British GT on Tuesday. We've got the rookies on Thursday with late night on Thursday night. Round 4 of the championship Pure Sim Gear at Kota on next Friday. And in the not too distant future, on the 22nd of April, we have 24 hours of Watkins Glen. And we're trying to get as many hours of that as possible streamed. To Kenya, as Salvatore is going for another pit stop, and he's the car in front. So I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, whether it needs to be another stop. So to Kenya, car number 84, yes, he had a drive through. Car number 92 had a drive through as well as car number 70. And that was on lap 24, so 2 laps, 92 and 70 had drive-throughs on lap 24. De Kenya was on lap 84. David Goodway, meanwhile, currently leading the silver split, but is in a fight for P4 overall with Pavlo Povlachuk in P4 in the Honda, looking for the inside line, kind of dummies it. David Goodway has to be mindful of Ippolito behind his span. No, Simone Ippolito, you've been doing so well. Oh, get back on the track, come on. Just that weight transfer in the Porsche pushed him wide, but the important thing for Ippolito, he's still P2. All he's done is allowed Cutrale and Zakdel through, which are both pro drivers. So now David Goodway can have a bit of a chill. So Ippolito still has 7 seconds to Sietti in P3, and Sietti having that podium from the position he started, which gained 15 positions. I think he's happy with that, but he's under pressure from Varzi behind. So yeah, this is still building. But our leader, we haven't really focused on him that much. He qualified in P4, P3 has moved. Dave Goodway, why are you going slow? Oh, he's still on track. So let's have a look and see how the instants are progressing. There's been some changes of colours. So car number 84 had a driver for a dangerous rejoin. We've had 3 racing instants of been applied, and there's a possible spin between car number 140 and 913 on lap 29 that's currently under investigation. But so far, excellent job by the stewards, and we all really appreciate you. Biagio, 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 number one. That looks like the Fortnite number 1. Yeah, Fort 1. Ugh. Right, back to the racing, not Fortnite. So David Goodway, P5. Melka Garvey, since his little expedition, as I guess the damage is not that great. So Stotteris is in the pits as well. So car number 92, I think, was one of the cars that got a drive through on that list. But Melka Garvey, P2. Alexander currently in P3 overall for the pro split. He's now 11.5 seconds, so he's dropped quite a bit of time to Melka Garvey because he was within 3-4 seconds of him, so potentially has had a little bit of an off. P4 is Pavel Pavlychuk, has now got a bit of distance from David Goodway. David Goodway seems to have had a bit of a relax since Ippolito has gone off the track. David Goodway leading the silver split, currently in P5 overall. Biagio in P6, 2.2 seconds behind. Zakdel, after he got taken out at the start of the race, is back up to P7, only 2 positions away from where he qualified, incidentally. Ippolito P2 in the silver split, in P8 overall. Amir in P9. He's under pressure from Maxim. So this is P7 overall in the pro split. So Amir trying to get down on the power, and that move's going to attempt to be made down the inside. This is a very complex move and very, very risky, but Maxim seems to have made it successfully, and very compliant driving from Amir as well behind. So Amir's dropped down to P10. So Yetin's now going to be on the back of him, and is that move going to be made into the final corner on the inside? It is indeed, and that is a fantastic move from Sayeti. Opportunistic, as Amir had to slow down to allow for the move to be made on him, but Amir hasn't really lost that much in terms of position. Is that who's that coming out from the pits? Oh, that's Nigel Longdon by the looks of things, come out in P20. Some funny connections going on here. But Nigel Longdon's come out in P20 just in front of Alan Brown. So I'm not sure what happened to 328, but he's just allowed Alan Brown to go through. Interesting. So we're into a final 9 minutes of the race. Sietti MVP, Sietti. Just trying to see if there's any possible fights building up. Blanchett's had a nice quiet race. He hasn't had the strongest qualifying, but just remaining on the black stuff in the middle of the track, staying out of trouble has allowed him to gain quite a few positions. He's gained 5 positions from the start just from remaining on the track, essentially popping in his 35s, 36s, just having a nice time. Salvatore has had a very spam this chat to help out Sietti. I don't mind it. Oh, Quail. Let's have a look. What's happened to him? He's dropped down to P10. So he's now in the middle of Sietti, Maxim and Amir. Not sure what happened, but Sietti now is up into P9. Maybe he took off and went over the top of Maxim. Maxim now gone quite slow through the hairpin. That is Alan Brown, I think, in between them rather than anyone else. Yes, it is, and he's getting a blue flag now from Amir behind. Maxim trying to crawl all over the back of Sayeti in front. I'm pretty sure that the internet connection is not helping those drivers who are around him. Alan Brown moves over to the side of the track. Just getting a view from Maxim and how it's impacting him potentially. Final 7 minutes of the race, into the braking zone for the final corner. A bit wide. Seems to be okay from the driver's eye view, but every now and again it just kind of seems to port somewhere else. See, it's just jittering over the track a little bit. Maxim starts to get close towards the hairpin, avoid the marbles as much as possible, going through the banked hairpin. Oh, that's going to give Tieti a bit of a reprieve and give Amir an opportunity. Ippolito's got a yellow flag in front. I will stay on board with this fight between Maxim. So, what's happened to Ippolito? Ippolito's parked across the track. As the Porsche had his weight transfer problems again. That's promoted Hieti now to P2 and dropped Ippolito down to P3. He needs to get up to speed as quickly as possible, otherwise he's going to lose what could have been a fantastic podium. And Ippolito has now dropped to P11 overall, but P3 in the silver class. Not sure if there's any damage to that bonnet or the front end of the Porsche. It doesn't seem to be that healthy. As the BMW has closed rapidly on him. It's going to go for the move down the inside now on Ippolito. Side by side through the exit, and the BMW just breezes past him. Now Ippolito might be in danger of losing fourth place as well, because Varzi is only a couple of tenths behind, and it does definitely look like Ippolito's got some serious problems. Varzi's going to try and make the move down the inside. It's now side by side down the straight. You have Carl Van Horn right behind them as well. Into the sweeping left-hander. Ippolito gives enough space and then is forced a bit wide. And Ippolito has lost another 2 positions there. So Ippolito now is going to be under pressure from Chris Jones too. So Carl Van Horn has jumped up to P13 overall. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position. And he's in danger of losing that as well. It's just a case of hanging on now for Simone. Simone has dropped from P2 to P5. As you can see, Chris Jones lurking in the background, peeping out from behind the sofa, thinking he now has a chance potentially of gaining another position, as we've had some nope, they look okay. See, Maxim still behind. David Goodway still holds a 1.2 second gap to Pavlo Pavlychuk. The gap in front is still 10 seconds between Terence Keenan and Melker Garby. 16 seconds back to Alexander. Pavlo Pavlychuk is a further 5 seconds back from him. P1 in the silver class is David Goodway. Biagio in P6. Zakdal in P7. Chieti in P2 for the silver, has 8 overall. 9th is Maxim. And then in P10 is Amir. But will Chris Jones manage to get to Simeone by the end of the race? We have just under 3 minutes. So that's going to be about 2-3 laps, I think. Last time out it was 4 seconds quicker a lap. The gap is now 2 seconds between Chris Jones and Simeone. Simeone is going slow, as if somebody was lapping him. That's how much problems he's currently having on track at the moment. We still have 22 drivers remaining on the grid. Into the braking zone, he's definitely a lot slower. The confidence has been lost as well from those 2 spins. Remember, he was challenging for the lead at the Silvers, had a spin on the exit of the 2nd chicane, and then seemed to have an exit on a problem on the exit of the 1st chicane, which has caused him to fall massively down the order. But Chris Jones is now approaching the rear of the Italian. Don't rush the move, you're going to have more pace than Ippolito, and it appears the favoured place is down into this final corner, and Ippolito, in fairness, has been extremely respectful when allowing the drivers to go through. Side by side with Chris Jones, the Honda should have the grunt to power away from the Porsche as they head down towards turn 1. And they're still side by side. Chris Jones has now managed to get the move done, and he's moved up into P14 overall. So next one he's 11 seconds. He's 43 seconds in front of the car in front. Alan Brown has allowed Chris Jones to pass through nicely successfully. So leader is on the final lap. So our fastest lap of the race is done by Alexander with a 33.8, which I'm not sure how that's the fastest lap when you've got Terence Keenan instead. He's done a 33.2. So that'll have to be worked out at some point. But our P2 is Melka Garbi, just going through the first sector at the moment. P1 overall in the Silvers is David Goodway, who's just started his last lap. I imagine he's sat at home sweating his absolute guts out, and also the broadband of Terence Keenan must be sweating his absolute guts out as well. He must be praying that nothing happens in the last minute of this race, and hoping he gets across the line. He qualified in P4. He waited patiently. A mistake from Melka Garbi has allowed him to take control of this race. Currently leads it by 10 seconds over anyone else. Needs to pass and negotiate car 738 successfully, which he has done. Remain on track. Head towards the final braking zone on the circuit. And this will be a fantastic win for Terence Keenan. The Irish Potato comes across to win round 3 of the Pro class for Pure Sim Gear GT3, and that is an absolute fantastic win. But it was gifted to him by this man, making a mistake at the braking zone to the hairpin. Melka Garbi comes across to finish P2. Alexander says he has the fastest lap, but he's currently in P3 to finish the podium in the Pro section. So Alexander comes across the line to finish in P3, and that is a very good result indeed. P4 is Pavlo Pavlychuk, and our winner for the silver section is David Goodway, and the smoke goes off in the background. That is a fantastic result from him. Alex Zakdal with a fantastic recovery drive in P6. Biagio in P7. Sayeti is going to come across to claim an unlikely podium from the start grid. He started in last position. Patient Racing has managed to claim P2 and continue his championship fight alive. P9 is Maxim Amir with a solid P10, and to round off our podium in the silver section, Stanislav comes across to claim P3, followed closely behind by Uwe Varzi. Carl Van Horn in P13, P14 with a very credible drive in is Chris Jones, and someone who must feel quite disappointed with himself after 2 incidents is Simeone Ippolito, who comes across to finish P15 overall as he parks his car off onto the side. But that was round 3 at Oulton Park of the Pure Sim Gear GT3 Friday. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. I think we'll all agree that was a brilliant result. Let's have a quick recap of our results. So Chris Schneider in 24th, Pozniakov in 23rd. Stotris probably has had better nights in P22. Alan Brown once again has probably had better nights as well in P21. Nigel Longdon in P20. Ryan Blanchett in P19. Disappointed with his own performance, I'm sure, it's Salvatore. Probably fancies his chances for a win, but he finished in P18. Legard Romanin in P17. Oliver Ewig in P16. Simeone Ippolito in 15. Chris Jones in P14. Carl von Horn in 13. Uwe Varzi in P12. Stanislav in P11. Amir in P10. Maxim in P9, Francesco Scieti in P8, Biagio in P7, Alex Zakdal in P6, David Goodway, our silver winner tonight, in P5, Pavlo Pavlychuk in P4, Alexander in P3, Mel Kagabi in P2, and Terence Keenan, our race winner tonight. Remember, it's bank holiday weekend. Hopefully the sun will be out this weekend. And you all have a good time. But in terms of tonight's race, it is over. Hope you join us again next week. But for now, good night.